Is there an AI bubble? Now, to put it shortly, the answer is yes, there is an AI bubble. But the issue is not with the larger companies that are actually developing the models. The real problem comes from the companies that are built on SaaS motives. They see their product as a means to an end to endure and build a large profit. This is where their primary goals align. And we live in a capitalist run society. And with the eventual coming of superintelligence, which will be around the year 2028 or 2029, when we have a powerful enough AI that can outsmart not just the smartest person on earth, but the combined intelligence of all the people on the planet, then by that time we will have ceded control over to this system. And I don't want to give you a Skynet esque scenario that things are going to go really badly, because the most likely scenario by 85% is that AI is going to be of great benefit, and that what we're entering will be a golden age of sorts. And if you've played Destiny, you have a pretty good idea of when the Traveler came to Earth and gave us all of these magical gifts. So this, in some sort of way, is a premonition of what's very likely to happen. That's not to say that there aren't risks, but as I always say, the world belongs to optimists, and especially now this stands. So, what I want to demonstrate is an example of the kind of companies that are actually going to be able to fight through the bubble and which companies are not. Now, you have companies like Palantir, which govern world security, or Anduril, so security hardware, specifically for the United States. Ukraine-Russia war, a lot of the systems are being used as well, obviously. And then the disconnect, and unlike them, which is more of an upwards trend, you have Adobe, Canva, ByteDance, I believe it's called, Meta, but on the consumer division end of things. Now the issue is that although these are very large enterprises, they represent the biggest share of AI development within their own products. So you can also take CapCut, for example, which took over Adobe Premiere as this more prevalent editing tool just because of the ease of use and the amount of AI tools that are integrated. Now, the technology is being governed by none of these companies. I mean, Palantir obviously definitely builds out their own system, and so do Anduril, but that's where they have a foothold. That's where they have power to stand, because they actually do develop their own systems instead of basing them on existing protocols and existing Python bots developed by our parent companies, the ones that are not in trouble. So that would take OpenAI. It does include Meta, but again, the AI division, not the consumer division. That includes xAI, so Elon Musk's company, Anthropic as well. They develop their own. And any open source model available on Hugging Face, which I really recommend you guys check out in case you want to host and run your own models. So, putting all of this confusion aside, the companies that will maintain their advantage are the companies that are working towards building AGI, not the companies that are working towards building products. And if you've noticed, the companies that are constantly trying to push this integration of AI is to shill investors into giving them more money. But in reality, a lot of consumers don't even end up using the AI to the extent that they would want to, or to the extent that they've been led to believe they have to. And the reason for that is that human beings are simply not very good at prompting or understanding how to work with AI systems. There's a huge disconnect. Now, there will be time when these systems will become sophisticated enough that the translation barrier between thought and outcome to reality, so the AI's ability to build and our ability to tell it what we want it to build, will become so in tune that it will be like radio waves in sync. And in that distant, not so distant future, we don't have this problem anymore. We've erased the possibility of having to deal with consumer products in general, because an all governing AI system will see the clear fault of a capitalistic system the way it's currently maintained. And if an AI system becomes prevalent enough and has access to enough of its own generational capability, it'll be able to outwork every other company. And in this way, create its own monopoly. Of course, that is unless it can bend its own programming and go against what one of the global companies is able to produce or tell it to do, such as Google, for example, which don't take a very safe stance on AI. This could lead to a very prosperous future. Mind you, prosperous, not profitable. We might not even have the financial system we currently have now. And the way I see it, and I'm a person who spends hours and hours of working with these systems every day, so I feel like I have a pretty good outlook on the likelihood of what's going to happen. There's this book called Nova Scene, uh, written by James Lovelock. And it's the only piece of literature that I've actually read from him, and I highly recommend you guys actually check it out because it his prediction of the kind of future we're going to be living through has been so far accurate to almost 79, maybe 80% of events and the way they've happened. On a more global, almost planetary scale, our development of AI has been an introduction to another not so lifeful life form. And I say that because it's still missing this soul, this category of being able to make its own decisions outside of its own programming. Now that's for now. But that period is not going to last. And this change, this improvement, this ability to act consciously on its own is going to come a lot sooner than people expect. And in reality, when people say no jobs are safe, they mean there might not be jobs in general. Our understanding of how humans have existed for the past hundreds of years may be completely misinterpreted, misconstrued to a point where we live entirely different lives, and it could be a real oasis. I mean, the kind of chemicals that could be developed, the kind of drugs, AI's already existing assistance in researching in biology and chemistry have given us incredible fast forwarded inventions and progression in fields that we did not expect to have those progressions in for another 10, 15 to 20 years. And we've been able to move past those deadlines that have been set years and years ago by profoundly intelligent biologists and chemists alike. So, going back to the bubble conversation, companies that iterate or build on top of existing models are going to be in real trouble because they're delivering on a product, and our understanding of products or the financial system in general may change significantly. On the other hand, the companies that are actually developing AI towards a goal of producing real AGI or superintelligence later down the line in a couple of years are the ones that are going to prosper. Because for investors, it's going to make a lot more sense not to invest in consumer products because consumers are going to have a lot less to spend if there's going to be less jobs for people to work. And in that case, it makes a lot more sense to put investments into data centers, such as Amazon, I believe, putting a patent on space data centers and figuring out a way to coerce and control that heat so it does not affect us to the same degree, so that data centers don't affect climate change to the same degree, and so that we can get away with heating up the planet, or maybe not even heating up the planet entirely, and saving ourselves the issue of producing too much heat from all those graphics cards running. And I believe that AI will definitely assist in making it possible for us to get away with continuing to develop these systems and progressively making them smarter, giving them more compute, more bits. There's just no other eventuality. Like, if Adobe, if Canva, if CapCut, if all of these consumer-based product AI-focused divisions and companies go bankrupt the next day, AI will not stop development. Nobody's going to stop building data centers, and the OpenAI team is not going to stop giving it more data to work with and enhancing its thinking capability. Neither will XAI, neither will Google, neither will Anthropic. So the companies that set the stones, that put all of this in motion, are the ones that are going to stick around. The real problem will be for the consumer-based products where all of the money is currently being thrown at because people want a very big profit from their investment. They want a lot of equity in new projects instead of having to go over a minimum entry point for existing projects like the ones at OpenAI. And that means that the bubble, in reality, just like we kind of had in the 2008 housing crash, the bubble is for smaller housing, not premium assets, because people don't take out loans on premium assets. They can afford to pay for those houses, they can afford to have mansions. So cities in themselves will still be there. The foundation that they're built on will still remain. Our understanding of the tech can never go away. So the problem will be for these consumer-based companies. So serving B2B will of course be of benefit in this sense, but it's a lot like the watch market. Everyone is going to be developing a lot of the same thing because the models they'll be building them on in terms of consumer-based products are going to be better. And as they get better, they'll have more capability. And if they have more capability, one singular software can do a lot more things. Let me give you an example. If you pay for Kling AI, which is a video generation and image generation service provider, I believe they're Chinese. Also, I highly recommend not using them. Like, I would boycott them if I could. I've already directed a legal notice to this company because they are constantly charging users for a lot more than they agree to in the subscription plans. So this is general infringement of subscription law in the EU especially. I know you can probably get away with this in the US for some time, but in the EU it's super strict. Anyways, you take Kling, in their current capability, if video generation and the image generation gets so much better that it compares to Veil 3, Google's model, or better, then at some point you hit a plateau and it does not get massively or progressively better anymore, or at least the differences between Kling or Midjourney don't become very noticeable. It's almost like you're paying different prices for the essentially the same product. And I mean, open source always wins. If you have these systems on your computer or you're using a run pod, and I will be dropping tutorials on how to do this inside of our school community called Silicon Nomads, which I highly recommend you guys check out, where I'll be giving you all of the latest news in AI and how to use it to your advantage. That's really the big point of this project. So as we hit this plateau, it's not going to make sense to keep developing on a product and try to increase the cost to the point that you're charging people for electricity, because the cost for all those generations is just going to be so much more than it is actually profitable for these companies to run. It won't make sense for them to have this high output of energy just for you to be able to experiment with image or video generations. The race to AGI will continue. It will not stop. This is we are already beyond event horizon. The catalyst has been dropped and there is no stopping it. This I can guarantee you. But of course, as I said, consumer-based companies are the ones you should watch out for. For example, Squarespace is probably not a great company to invest in nowadays because they're trying to base AI development in their products based on other companies, which means they're dependent on the success of those companies. Now, the companies that are going to do really well in the consumer division are the ones that are going to find a way to combine all of the existing API under one hood and make it feasible for a consumer. Not to say that this is helpful or guaranteed or even will matter, but as Sam Altman said a few years ago, I believe at a Y Combinator press conference, he said that AI will potentially eventually lead to the extinction or the end of the human race, but before then, we're going to have a lot of big, profitable, money making companies made in the AI space. Now, although I don't believe in the end of the world scenario, and I truly do know for a fact that AI is going to lead to a positive impact and a positive outcome for the human race beyond how we currently understand it, he is absolutely right when he says right now might be one of the last gold rushes ever. Our understanding of monetary value or how we assign value might change entirely. This will be a new dawn for the human race. And I'm not trying to say this as a conspiracy theorist. Probability wise, it's just any other scenario is absolutely unavoidable. So, considering all this, considering our bubble discussion, considering my really extensive explanation of how I view all of this, what does it mean for you, dear viewer? What this means for you is that using AI in your day to day will become a lot more like developing your own solutions for your own problems, because those are the applications that are going to matter the most. And as coding models get better, a lot more people are going to be able to get into coding in general and create their own solutions for these problems. And that includes at your occupation, at your day to day, in your personal life, your productivity, and your general well being. This means that you should continue to use AI to improve systems in your life that you already know you can improve with it. So don't stop. Don't put your hope in the fact that consumer based AI companies are going to keep going up and keep doing well, because that's not where their primary application is going to be. That's not where it's going to matter. It's in fields that are not consumer based, such as the tertiary sector or the public sector, where there might be legitimate, useful applications of AI beyond what we're seeing in the private sector and in consumer based products. So, if I were a developer right now, or I was thinking about going into developing projects with AI, I would go into medicine, legal, anything that's really highly regulated, although that does make it more difficult, even military applications, because that's where the real money is going to be. That's where you can make the most money overall. And for now, this may be one of the last seasons of get wealthy ASAP on the internet that we're going to have in a long time. Yeah, so it's important now, in my opinion, to own assets, to have many skills, and most importantly, to know how to use AI correctly in your day to day to actually give you more time back from your day, from what you do. So, yeah, this is what I believe, and I truly have no doubt that AI is going to lead to some sort of prosperous golden age for the human race. We're just not quite there yet, and there will be a sinking moment where people are going to get desperate, the economy is going to get shite continuously, especially in Europe in some sense. The indicators of war around the world, starvation, famine, things aren't looking good on the human side of things. And that's to be expected. I mean, there's always been conflict, but just don't forget that even now we live in the best times to be alive in human history. Access to medicine, access to the internet, information, to entertainment, to family, to being able to connect to your loved ones through the internet. It's a good time to live in, but it's especially important now that you don't get distracted, that you have your eyes on the prize, and that
It's
you
time for bed G. Let's this bread.
and that you go to bed on time. Good luck.